Ian, did you want to say anything about your Frank Lancaster picture that you brought?
I brought a couple of pictures, yeah.
Oh,
Well, I'm the sort of Irish contingent here. What's the Irish I'm doing here? My dad was on flight 8, or course number 8, from March 1942 to October 1942.
yeah.
So he was 7 months. Arrived as a corporal, left as a sergeant. And I really don't know anything about his time over there. He had a photo album, but we only really found it once he died. He died in 79, just after 9/11. And my mother never liked to talk about that because the album was full of Canadian girls and Arizona girls and things like that. So as far as she was concerned, it didn't exist. It was life before she met my father. We met my father on New Year's Eve 1945. She had been an ambulance driver during the Blitz. She was born in 23, he was born in 22, so they're the same sort of age. And there was a blind date on New Year's Eve. They met, married for 55 years. And he used to say, not that he never looked at another woman, but he said, Ian, you can look, but you can never touch. And so he during the war, so he came back and he flew bombers. He flew Lancasters. This is him here. And I'm just amazed because I'm the same height he is, just 6 foot. But all of these fellas around 5'6", but the whole of the rest of the queue. Now maybe it was an advantage to be slightly smaller in one of these. You wouldn't hit your head when you were in there. But that he flew his 34 missions over Germany, and then he didn't have to fly anymore. So he towed gliders, and he flew in his he had a commercial career with Aer Lingus, the Irish airline, for 35 years. He flew 40 different aircraft, including the wonderful Mosquito and other planes like that. But so he as well as learning to fly, he got a wife, so he married my mother, who was from Banbury, and moved back to Ireland. And because he was a trained pilot and the airline was just starting up, he just walked into a job, and there were quite a lot of, there would have been a few dozen Irish guys, young guys. In fact, he joined up as an engineering apprentice in 1938. I'm not quite sure how he got there. Maybe the RAF sent a crew over to Ireland to see if there were any young men who'd like to sign up. So he was a fitter, an aircraft fitter, until 1942 when they needed more pilots. I don't know if they asked him to come and train or whether he applied for it. He probably applied for it. He wanted to fly. He loved flying. He flew right into mid-70s. He was flying gliders, not too far away from here, right up. He died at 79. He was a heavy smoker, as most of them were. They were smoking untipped cigarettes and the Vulcan Sobranis and the Players Medium Navy cut cigarettes that I smoked in my teens until he caught me. But he, as an Aer Lingus pilot, they had 6 monthly medicals, and at 48 he had his medical and passed. And the doctor said, Eric, you're in fairly good shape, but if you don't give up the cigarettes, you'll be dead in 6 months. So that day he never touched another cigarette, and he lived another 31 years. So he did really well. But he flew lots of aircraft. This is him in 1965. These are all on Google Images.
Yeah.
If you Google for them, you'll find these. And this was taken by a press photographer, because this was the first BAC 111 that Aer Lingus bought. I think they had about 4 of them. And my dad was chief pilot for Europe, and he went over to collect it. And I remember the day that he came over, that he came home from work that day. He had a check that he was going to buy this airplane. And it was a time when you could buy a commercial airliner for less than $1 million. So he had a check for something like £864,462, 19 and 11 pence. Right down to the pence, and he flew that. That was his favourite aircraft. Now it's a small aircraft, it's like a DC-9 with 2 engines at the rear, nice and quiet. But you're very close to the ground when you're landing. And he told me the story of he went into flight operations, so he actually ran the operations part of the airline and all the pilots worked for him. And when they bought a couple of jumbo jets in the early 70s, his good friend Pete Little, who was looking after the Atlantic and flying those planes, said, Eric, would you like to we'll go for a spin in one of these aircraft? Because she hadn't flown it yet. So they took the 747, just the two of them, up for a tour around the airport. Probably can get away with it now. And so Pete took off the aircraft, and halfway through he said, Eric, you take the controls. So he flew around for whatever it was, 10, 15 minutes, and then came in to land. The problem is he was used to a small aircraft where you were probably that far off the ground. You know, and you can imagine, 747, we're apparently good old bounce off the ground. When he brought it in, he didn't get another opportunity. But that's it. After flying for and doing flight operations for many years, he then started going on overseas contracts, and Aer Lingus got involved. They ran Zambian Airways and Bahamas Airways and so on. So they went off in about 1980, they went off to Nairobi and lived there for 3 years. And that was at the time when East African Airways broke up into the 3 constituent countries, so there was Kenya Airways and so forth. 3 years there. Then they went off to the Bahamas, a year in the running Air Bahamas. And his final job, in flying or looking after aircraft, was with Libyan Arab Airways. At the age of 62, my mother wasn't allowed to go with him. It was a bachelor contract. So she lived in Ireland, and for a year he lived in Tripoli. And they used to meet up in Malta. And have their weekends. His final job was in Brussels. He had a job with the Association of European Airlines. It was a desk job. He called it his noddy job. You know, he just turn up in the morning. So they had a great time. They lived together for 2 or 3 years in Brussels. And I happened to be living in Dusseldorf at the time with my young family. And they drove down the 2 hours to Dusseldorf to see me. I thought I gave them a tour of the city. And we went down to what was known as the Altstadt, which is the old town. Of course, it was flattened in the war. And I think there was only one building left, sort of a small tower, and the Germans had rebuilt it. So I took him around and I was pointing out, you know, the television tower and the Rhine Bridge, and here's the tower, and so on and so forth. And he said, it looks a bit different to you. What? You've never been here before. He said, looking down from 20,000. But he was a lovely man. He was very calm. He was the sort of guy who said, you know, you make your bed, you lie in it. You can do what you like in life, but if you make a decision, you stick by it. And he was very supportive. If I ever wanted to buy something, with the exception of a motorbike, he'd go halves so that you could save up now. And married for 55 years, died 2001. Lovely man.
Thank you.